Okay, then let us move on to our preview of this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix. We are, of course, at the start of yet another triple header, starting in Imola last week, Monaco this week, and then Spain the following week for a 2 week break then to Canada. So it's coming in thick and fast now. There's race after race after race. This year's calendar has been a little bit better laid out. There'll be no random mid-season holidays after the mid-season holiday this year. Last year was weird. Um, Track info for the Monaco Grand Prix. Obviously, we all know it very, very well at this point. The Circuit de Monaco, 3.337 kilometer track around the streets of the Principality. 78 lap race. Last year was won from pole by Charles Leclerc, followed up by Oscar Piastri and Carlos Sainz. Fastest lap was taken by Lewis Hamilton. Now, gentlemen, Larry and Coops still with me, of course. We are not going to get into the should Monaco be on the calendar and blah 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 because, to be perfectly honest, we could just replay last year's preview of the preview episode of the Monaco Grand Prix, and it would make no difference. But what I do want to talk about is obviously the big change for Monaco this year. Is the mandatory 2 pit stops. So, Coops, talk us through a little bit of this. Why do you think they've done it, and will it work?
Why have they done it? It's Monaco. The cars have outgrown Monaco, but the the chance for the rich people to get together in a rich kind of principality and show off the fact they've got lots of money means that it stays in the calendar. Uh, it's probably more the cynical way of saying it. Any other track that's outgrown the Formula One as much as it has in Monaco would not be on the calendar, would have been off the calendar a long time ago. I mean, what to put it into perspective, these cars are 5 meters long by 2 meters wide. Now I'm 6'2", and that's 1.88 meters. So they're not small cars. So, and this is just a very, very small, narrow track. Like you can't get 2 cars wide, really. And there's not really anywhere to break to pass. And if you're passing, you're kind of just throwing it in and hoping for it. Uh, the so what was the other question? So
The two
will
stops.
will it change
Will it work?
anything? I don't know. Is my honest answer. I really don't know, and I don't think Formula One knows.
Well,
It's not
multiple
that it's
pit stops certainly helped Imola.
well, yeah, it did, but again, it's Monaco, and again, it's like so many wee things come into play. So it probably will. There's a higher chance that it will change something because teams now have to think about it. But the problem is pit stop windows can be quite narrow,
Hmm.
so everyone could come into the pits at the same time, go back out at the same time, and maybe 1 or 2 cars will change. So is it really going to change it? Probably not. But knowing our luck, it'll probably rain, and we won't have this anyway. Uh, the way that they've set the rule up is it's not a mandatory 2 stop. It's a mandatory you have to use all three of the tyre compounds, so soft, medium, and hard, which will mean that there's 2 stops. Uh, because you'll start on a soft, maybe then you'll do like a medium, and then you'll do a soft. I think that's how they're doing it. I may be wrong because I can see in the YouTube people can see that Sean is doing some left-handed googling. So he may come up and change that. But at the moment, that's my understanding of it. Uh,
I don't think it's mandatory all 3 tire compounds. I think it's just a mandatory 2 stop. But you probably will see people doing. Um,
hmm,
someone will use all 3 tires. I'm sure. I was gonna kind of bring it on to the next question of we'll probably see some different. We have to see different strategy, and that's going to be the game of it. And Larry, do you think someone a little bit further down, someone starting maybe like 11th or 12th, if Fernando Alonso qualifies 11th, he has to pit twice. Everyone around him has to pit twice. Does he start in the soft tires to get a jump off the lines, the only place going to make any overtakes, knowing that in 2 laps he'd have to pit and he can catch back up and then pit again when everybody else pits again, but he's pitted from further up?
I I don't think so. I think he would go the other way, just to try to ride it out, and because I'm sure everybody would agree there's going to be at least one intervention,
Probably.
um, probably two or three. Um, I think that that's going to change a lot of strategies, but I also think that it's going to be, let's start on a medium, take that as far as we can. First opportunity comes up, put on a soft or a hard to try to, or sorry, a soft to try to get an advantage, and then try to finish out on hard.
Mm.
That would be my, or mediums if they don't have to go, all three compounds. I just,
Yeah,
I just,
it's possible that obviously they bring two sets of hard tires to every race weekend. It's not like the old days where each driver got to pick how many of each compound they brought to each race weekend, which I personally miss. I get that there's a sustainability element to it, but I thought that added a bit of strategy as well because you had, the talk of, oh, well, Jenson Button has two brand new sets of mediums, but Sebastian Vettel doesn't have any because he didn't bring enough. I thought that was a fascinating element in a non-refueling era that kind of maybe a bit gimmicky, but it did force a bit of strategy whether you wanted to or not. But on the subject of that, Coops, if this weekend I don't think is the mandatory all three compounds, but surely, I mean, this feels a little bit gimmicky for Monaco because it's Monaco, but mandatory like use all three compounds in the race would just work at every single track, surely.
Of course.
Why
Did they
would they
not
not do that permanently?
did they not do that trial where like you had to use the hard in Q1, then medium Q2, soft in Q3? They done that
They
a
did
couple.
do
I don't
that,
think they done
yeah.
it last year. It was the year
Here
before.
before, yeah.
Yeah, and that was quite interesting. Way just to kind of spice things up. But again, I don't think it changes much. This is the problem. The way that Pirelli tires are designed now, they're
It
not. It
didn't
just
change much from a qualifying point of view
no.
because, I mean, the fastest car, the Red Bull at the time, the Red Bulls and the Mercs could do Q3 on the hard tires if they wanted to, and would
Mm.
normally do Q1 and Q2 on the harder mediums to save the soft because they had such a vast it was just a detriment to the lower team cars. But in the race, if you had to use all three sets of combat, at some point, it's a bit like attack mode in Formula E. At some point, everyone would be sort of benefited and hamstrung by having to pump on the soft tires for 5 laps. Everybody. And there'd be a
Mhm.
flurry of pit stop activity, which means there'd be a flurry of more pit stop errors, um, more unsafe releases, more speeding in the pit lanes. There'd just be more going on, even in Monaco.
Well, yeah. The issue with Japan was it took out variables. So you had the cars that were all very good, and I'll get to Monaco. Yeah, I see you're being a bit confused when I said Japan. So Japan was is probably the most boring race we've had this year.
Mhm.
Very much akin to France a few years back.
Top six finished where they started for the first time
On
ever,
a
not in Monaco.
yeah, and not on a track that's
Yeah.
designed for racing. Yep. Yeah, which is a bad thing. No yellows, no nothing. So and that was because the degradation of the tyres was lower than they thought. They'd resurfaced Sector 1, which was a high deg part of the track, which meant there was no degradation, and all the cars were very close in terms of speed. So you take out variables, you don't get a race. So conversely, you do the other side, you add in variables, there's a chance for things to happen. Now you're talking about Monaco, which is that narrow and small a circuit that the teams can't actually make their full pit stops. They've got to have things in a certain part, they've got to ferry them in. So if you've got half the field diving into that pit stop because that's the window and they've got to do that more than once, then yes. Monaco was the place where the Mercedes had the longest pit stop ever, which was about 3.5 days because of the failure of the wheel nut for Bottas just chewed up the teeth. So, I mean, you're right in that sense that logically, if you add in a variable, there's going to be something. Somebody's going to lose out somewhere. I just don't think it's going to do as much as people think.
Mm.
If you know what I mean, I think you might see a third drop to fourth or a fifth go up to third or something, or, a couple of wee things. And now that I've said that, Max Verstappen will be 25 seconds ahead, screw up his pit stop, and then Charles Leclerc will jump in for a second weekend in a row, and then everyone will be like, oh, yeah, yeah. But
Which the most exciting Monaco Grand Prix in the past 10 years have been exactly that. There's been 2016 where Red Bull fecked up Daniel Ricciardo's pit stop. It was 2018 where they got it right, but his car was dying. There was a 2023, 22 where Ferrari messed up Charles's pit stop, but they called him in at the wrong time. And they whatever it was, it was the variable that didn't need to, and they dropped him completely out of the race lead. But then you had last year, it was a red flag on turn one because Sergio Perez forgot how to drive, and decided he didn't like Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen anymore. And yes, for any Sergio Perez fans, I'm sorry, but that was categorically his own fault. That was just a clumsy mistake because he qualified crap as he normally
ridiculous.
did, and was out at the back and was a bit desperate. Go back and watch it. They all pitted. There was a red flag. They all went through the pit lane. They all put on hard tires, and then Charles Leclerc limped very slowly for 77 laps to win. Which is very
Yeah,
exciting. Charles won at home. First Monegasque driver to ever win an F1 race in Monaco. First Monegasque driver to ever win anything in Monaco since, was it Louis Chiron in like 1931 or something like that? It was an incredibly
probably. Yeah.
long time ago. Um, that was very exciting, and it was the only thing that was worth watching. But like, I'm pretty sure I turned it off for like 74 of those laps.
Yeah, that's the kind of Grand Prix you put on in the background. You just listen to it while you're doing something else, you
Irony.
know. Yeah,
Ironing
you're
was
doing
more
your
exciting.
eating something, maybe sitting with the PlayStation on and just have it in the corner on a tablet, just watching what's going on.
La-
Uh,
Larry, obviously this weekend coincides with the Indy 500 usually. So
Yeah.
as somebody from that side of the pond, I'm not. It obviously I know the answer to the question. Which is more exciting for you to watch? Is it Monaco or is it Indy?
Last year I would have said Monaco. Unfortunately, then I watched Monaco and decided, yeah, Indy for sure. Well, and I was going to ask as well that coming from this side, NASCAR, Indy, most of our other series, it's stop, 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 stop. They usually take forever, but it seems to have, at least for us, heightened the intensity of the race. It's almost, I think, akin back to, yeah, 60s and 70s in F1 when they started doing essentially quali sims in between stints.
Hmm.
So I don't know if maybe that's something we could get back, because like I said, that's what I was going to ask. Is it seems like strategy has overtaken racecraft. It's all about the fastest start to finish time,
Hmm.
and that's all that matters. So if if we can run three sets of softs and do three quali stints, that's going to be a great race, but it's going to be slower. So it's I don't know. For personally, as I guess an American, I would love to see something like that.
Hmm.
But again, and that's why I like Indy. I think Colton Herta, in the Sanzio Grand Prix, was completely undone in his pit stops. Um, and that's I think for me that's another reason I like it. I mean, what was I think it was a second slower for McLaren stop this week for
For Oscar.
Norris, and yeah, for Oscar, and it set him back so much. And for me, it was great because I'm like, oh, that brings some human element back into this technology driven
Hmm.
sport. So I like it. But yeah, my heart is still with Indy.
That's completely fair. And I'm not the biggest IndyCar fan in the world, but I did watch it. I've been watching it ever since Fernando Alonso entered it in 2017. I lived in Canada at the time, so it was easy to do because it was on at the right time. Um, and I do like to watch it every year now. It's fascinating. It gets to the point in the middle once they've all done their pit stops, they're sort of in procession where it gets a little bit Monaco-y and that it is a little bit processional. But
Mm.
any overtake could happen with any car at any time, and anyone could just dive bomb in any of the four corners at any time. So that is exciting. And I get your point on kind of Formula One has become almost a little bit robotic. The drivers are robotic. They do the same line, they do the same braking, the same acceleration, the same tires, and the same gear shifts lap after lap after lap after lap. And that in itself is absolutely a skill. Take nothing away from them for that. That is very, very difficult to do. And the pit stops as well, they are, again, robotic. Anything more than 2.2 seconds is considered a total failure. Oscar Piastri, it was pure human error not being able to get that wheel on again. And that adds a bit of human error to it, which we didn't have back in the day with refueling and stuff like that. There was a lot more human error. There's a lot more parts where things could go wrong based on one person's mistake. Um, and yeah, you're right. If they had, a couple of fast stints where the drivers kind of have to drive flat out, then you do increase I suppose the risk and the excitement element, the fear factor with, you could push really, really fast and make lots of time, but you might crash. And if you're Lance Stroll, you probably will. But if you're Max Verstappen, it'll be a drive in the park for you. Yeah, no, that's a really, really interesting point. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching who would fully agree with you on that, watching and listening who'd agree with you on that. And I'm sure a lot of our fans are Indy 500 fans, IndyCar fans of Indy 500 in particular, which of course is this Sunday as well. And I am also looking forward to that. So let's get into then predictions for Monaco. As I said, last year we had Charles Leclerc on pole. He won from Oscar Piastri and Carlos Sainz, and Lewis Hamilton got the fastest lap. So, Larry, I'll come to you back to you for this one. Give me your prediction for pole position and the top three, please.
I'm going to have to go back to McLaren, but it's a toss up. I I would put, I think, Norris pole on this one. Just because of, like we were saying earlier, the confidence and the ability to, I think, hopefully transition that. I know he's had some issues in Q3, but I'm hoping with last weekend or this last weekend going in, I think hopefully that will help him. Top three, Max will be up there somewhere. I think mostly to make my daughter happy and my son mad. I think I'm going to give Max P1, followed by Norris, and then Piastri.
All right then. Coops, your pole and top three.
Right, so I'm going to go with Norris, and I'm going to say that he's going to take the win. I've kind of beat on him a wee bit in the last couple of races because I didn't think his racecraft was very good, but he kind of answered a couple of those demons. If he can keep that consistent and take off the wee errors that he did in qualifying, then we're going to have a decent. We're going to see Norris do what he keeps saying he can do, and with that car, he kind of has to now. We've got to the point where he has to get rid of those mistakes because Piastri isn't going to make those mistakes. We're going to say Norris. Oh, do you know what? Let's go with a 1-2 Piastri, and then we'll say Max is
Okay.
third place.
I am going to say Max Verstappen on pole, just because he's a freak and he's a robot. Um, and it's his sort of circuit. But I am going to say Lando's going to win. I think he's going to pip him from second into turn one. Uh, Again, confidence building. He's got a couple of overtakes into him now. He's won a couple of battles straight into the next race. I think it's going to help him. So I'm going to say Lando, Max, and Charles, top three. That's purely on vibes. Monaco is always worth an extra tenth if you're a good driver. And as Martin Brundle always says, your home race is always worth another tenth as well. And Ferrari, while they were a bit slow, and they are only a couple of tenths off the rest of them, let's be honest. And first, third, and fourth, the past couple of races has been about 3 or 4 tenths. So if he's gaining the home field advantage and it's 2.5 tenths, he'll be right in there, I think. We are looking forward to that. I give you the times now for the weekend in Monaco. These are obviously UK Ireland times. So apologies to Larry. I don't have the American times. You have 4 time zones. I can't be doing that much maths. You can minus at least 5 for all of these times if you're watching on that side of the pond. Friday, practice 1 will be at 12:30 p.m. Practice 2 is at 4. Practice 3 is on Saturday at 11:30 and qualifying is at 3 p.m. and the race is at 2 o'clock. And obviously it's not just Formula 1 this weekend. We have Formula 2 and Formula 3, which is super exciting. We've got the Indy 500 this weekend as well. Later on in the month, we've got the Spanish Grand Prix, we've got the Shanghai E-Prix. It's a good week. It's a good month for motorsport fans. Plenty of motorbike racing as well. There's NASCAR races this month as well. There is, if you're any sort of motorsport fan, you'll be eating well for the rest of May. That'll do it for our preview of the Monaco Grand Prix. We will be back next weekend to review what hopefully will be a little bit more interesting than last year was. We can keep our fingers crossed. We'll stay positive on that one. All that's left for me to say is thank you to Larry. Thank you very much for having your first podcast with us. Hope you enjoyed it.
It's been a blast. Hope to do it many more times. Thank you for having me.
We look forward to having you back on. And Coops, thank you as always.
Thank you very much, guys.
We will talk to you again. We are Everything F1. Check us out on all socials. Check out everythingf1.com for daily news and articles. As I said, with that much motorsport on there, will be plenty for you to dive into over on everythingf1.com. And check out our sponsors, theRaceworks.com, for all of your F1 and motorsport merch needs. Use our code EF1 at checkout for 10% off site wide. I've been Sean. Enjoy the Monaco Grand Prix. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.